Halloween specials for the month here. Ooh, spooky. Anyways, hope you're having a lovely day. Hope you're having a great weekend so far. Today we're going to go ahead and listen to the Cocteau Twins. We're going to listen to their album Head Over Heels. We're going to do a full album listen today. This is their second studio album, which was released in 1983. The album having been suggested by the likes of Tish Bite 69, Prog Menen, Tim Draper, and Damiana Demox. So thank you guys so much for the recommendation and for the suggestion. So with Cocteau Twins, I've listened to Heaven or Las Vegas and a couple other songs here or there, but looking at the track list for this specific album, I do not recognize any of the track listing here. So I believe that all of this will be totally new material. It's first listen material from myself here. So yeah, so I was looking for albums and, tracks to cover for October and like the Halloween long song Saturdays and everything. And Cocteau Twins weren't really in my sphere, but I was looking at different like gothic rock bands and albums. And interestingly enough, this album is considered gothic rock, ethereal rave, or wave rather, and post-punk. So I'm really curious to hear Cocteau Twins with these genre tags because, having Heaven or Las Vegas in my mind, I don't think anything really gothic, but I'm just really curious. So that's what we're doing. That's how we got here today. And I hope that you guys are here to have a great time listening to the album. And also, just as an aside, because I wanted to research this a little bit before we actually got into it. So with Cocteau Twins and their lyrics. So I guess for this album, Elizabeth Fraser did write a few lyrics, like a few words down, like in the original sleeve notes for this album. But there's not like a full list of lyrics. It's just a couple words or phrases that she had put in there. And then for the most part, I guess most of it's going to kind of be her usual style of kind of more, enjoying the sound of her voice and the phonetic words or words that she uses and not really worrying about too much of the words. So I have lyric, I think lyric, pages up here and stuff, so I can kind of look at least at what she was hinting at with some of her words, but I don't think I'm going to have like full lyrics, but I don't believe there are really full lyrics as well. So just to throw that out there before we go further, because I was actually reading a few interviews from her about her words and stuff, and like for example, she says like, let me see here. One of the things that she says was, here, let me actually pull you guys up here real quick. Because I'm actually on Cocteau Twins' website, and I was reading a bunch of stuff about their lyrics and stuff here. And I thought some of this was interesting, like, for example, she says, there was something in here I wanted to kind of reach out. What they are words that I've taken from maybe seeing written down in a language that I don't understand, and liking them and maybe making new words out of them. I've got reams and reams of words that I don't have a clue what they mean, but I wanted them because I knew I'd be able to express myself without giving anything away. Which she also previously mentions that she found out she's a very secretive person. She says, the catch is I can barely speak English, isn't it? I quite like that. Combining words in different languages that I couldn't understand just meant that I could concentrate on the sound and not get caught up in the meaning. So that's kind of what the point is here, I guess, with Cocteau Twins and the lyrics and stuff. So I just wanted a little bit of head knowledge before we dove straight into it. But now that I've talked enough, dive we shall. Beginning with the first track on the album here, When Mama Was a Moth, not a mouth, When Mama Was a Moth. And guys, Long Song Saturday, press the like button, subscribe and all that stuff. And as always, this clear glass of water, this one's for you. Let's get into it. It's not playing. There we go. Oh, you know what? Oh my gosh. Guys, I'm glad you're here for this sometimes. Listen, you guys are probably laughing at me. For whatever reason, it was playing through my phone. Oh, that is so weird. I'm so glad you guys are here for like the mess ups and stuff. Let me check some. There's some audio. Okay, we got audio. All right, that was so weird. Let me try it again. All right, When Mama Was Moth. I am so sorry about that, guys. That's better. melodic line that's playing slowly over this crawling guitar is very sinister. It's funny how it's so peaceful, but swollen. I gotta tell you, this is such a completely different sound than what I am used to with Cocteau Twins, and I'm curious to see how this album develops from here, because you have that loud, punchy, reverb-filled drum that's just echoing in the dark, and then the guitar riff. I think it's Guthrie. I think is the name of the guitarist here. Yeah, Robin Guthrie, with this just crawling distorted guitar that just lulls through the song like a lazy river, but a lazy river more of like a lazy swamp, like it's foggy, it's dark, it's murky, and it just goes across. And then you have that little melodic line that kind of sinisterly, in a John Carpenter kind of way, starts creeping its way in. And at certain points, it almost feels like the music becomes a little bit louder, and then it kind of backs away and shies back down. And then Elizabeth over it, she sounds like she's chanting, and she's not necessarily singing in a mantra or in some sort of way like that, but it has the same enrapturing and capturing way of kind of like weaving this spell around us. I think that this is really interesting because it is a darker turn than from what I'm used to, like with Heaven in Las Vegas, but it still has that atmosphere built with subtlety, and here especially used in a much darker way. This is, I'm actually very curious to hear where this goes. And once again, lyrically, I don't have a lot to really go off of. The only lyrics I have here are sunburst and snowblind. When mama was moth, I took bulb form. So, kind of what I was reading with the interviews with her and the different things. She did choose the words for a reason, but she was just more interested in how it sounded rather than the direct meaning of the word. But there are reasons. So I think that the title, When Mama Was Moth, what does that mean? When Mama was moth. Around at night. Moths are nocturnal, I believe. Oftentimes coming out at night, they are, of course, attracted to lights. I think of moths as the opposites of butterflies. Moths to me are darker. They're coincide with nights and related to nighttime and stuff. So when mama was moth, actually I don't know. Listen, I'm sitting here trying to put my spin on. I don't even have a spin on it. I have nothing to go off of, but I can say that it sounded beautifully, darkly beautiful, as a matter of fact. And I would not be surprised if Chelsea Wolfe took a lot of influence from Cocteau Twins and Elizabeth Fraser. In particular, I think I have my Chelsea Wolfe album. Boop. I don't know where to move my head. Boop, right there. Album of the year, one of them for sure. Anyway, so let's go and move on to the next track here, which is going to be 5, 10, 50 fold. Let's go ahead and dive in. And that music and that moody bass behind it, moving it along. of that bounce that the music has. And sax. Oh, that's deep. Wheezing and sneezing. Nice little change with the guitar. Sax return. That sax is so good in there. Little note change in the back there. I heard that. This is going to be a very darkly relaxing album listen. So I hope that you're here for it. I hope that you're here to just like chill, relax, enjoy it a little bit. Because lyrically, we're not going to dive too much as we usually do. So first of all, I love how this track takes the mood and upturns it, gives it this rhythmic jaunt with the drums back to the bum bum da dum ba dum dum bum bum da dum bum bum dum, and that leads to that last note climax when she's singing out the chorus, where you can clearly hear her say 5, 10, 50 fold the title of the track. The saxophone is a lovely addition here, and everything in this track, and this goes for a lot of their songs, everything is just drenched. I mean, drenched in reverb and echo and dreamy studio magic to bring a lot of subtlety from the drums. Like if you listen to like the snare, like you hear the echo, you hear the reverb after it hits, of course, into Elizabeth's voice and the way that she sings, like this beautiful siren in the night, to of course the guitar and the bass and everything. But I just think that that adds this interesting coat onto the music, this interesting top coat onto it that just brings out this different kind of tone to everything that it touches, which with Cocteau Twins, it touches everything. So I just think that that's really cool. Once again, the saxophone really had this nice harmony, I guess you could say, with Elizabeth's voice, because they both kind of played and sang and delivered in their own way a similar tone. They both, to me, gave me the idea of a siren or a banshee in the night, just haunting but beautifully singing out into the shadows under a full moon. I don't know why that's what I'm getting, but it's what I'm getting. And I think that it sounded wonderful. On the saxophone on this track is credited to Ali Gibb playing here, who once again just does a really fantastic job. The bass playing from Guthrie, I really felt that it had this strong, shadowy movement behind everything. I like how big it pulsed with everything. It reminded me of The Cure and how bass-led their music is, but of course, once again, still wrapped around an atmosphere. It gave me a similar feeling here with the bass, the way it was driving and pulsing everything. Then, the music changes at the break. The guitar kind of lightens up a little bit. The bass hits a little bit of a static note where it just kind of repeats for a little, and then it kind of changes mood. And it did that so subtly, I thought that that was really cool. Because very easily, the track could have just stayed in that particular lane that it was staying. But no, it very subtly kind of switched lanes and moved over, which I thought was really nice. So yeah, once again, wonderful track. And one thing, also kind of getting back to the lyrics that I meant to mention, is even Elizabeth Fraser had mentioned that, like, you know, once again, she writes some words, but she kind of just puts it all out there. And she had a quote in there, and I'm not going to look for it again, because I feel like I've already talked about this enough. But she basically said, once you as the artist or the singer puts your voice, your words, your lyrics, your music, your art out there, it no longer belongs to you. It belongs to the audience, to the listener. And it's up for them to interpret and see things as they see it and hear things as they hear it. So, like, for example, let me bring you guys up here. If I look at songlyrics.com, there are lyrics here that are written out. However, most of these won't be official lyrics. These are just, for the most part, going to be like what fans have heard and what they've submitted here. So these may not be real. Here, if I'm on Cocteau Twins' actual website, you see for Head Over Heels, this album, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4 songs that have some lines that are from the album itself. So, you know, I could sit here and go through these lyrics, but these are submitted from fans as far as I can tell, and not necessarily what the band intended. So I kind of prefer to stick with, you know, what the band intended and put on their sleeve of the album as far as I can tell. Even though the whole wheezing and sneezing did sound quite right when I was listening to the song, and the gushing, I heard like that word there. So, you know, there's parts in there you can definitely take, but you know, the interpretation really is for yourself. So I'm gonna stick right here. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the next track. With that being said, which is Sugar Hiccup. It's a sweet hiccup. That sounds like heaven or Las Vegas, this sound right here. There's 2 words I can understand in there. So catchy. Great vocal run. Sings that so good. I like how that second guitar riff kind of just strummed its way in there. Like a synthetic choir, kind of. Little fade out. Okay. We're only 3 tracks in, but I feel like Sugar Hiccup is a big standout. So something that I was thinking about when I was listening to it is I guess that the band kind of uses their delivery. I keep on going back to it. I'm sorry. I guess they kind of use their delivery kind of the same way as like a band like Sigur Rós would use. I haven't listened to the band in such a long time, but if I remember correctly, is his name Jonesy? If I remember, if I remember correctly, they're from Iceland, and so some words are like they use, but for the most part, it's their own made-up language, which I forget what it's called. I think it started with an H, but it doesn't matter. Or something like scat singing, things like that, where there may be a couple words, but it's mostly just about the feeling of the words. And I can imagine Elizabeth Fraser, coming up with and seeing in a dictionary or where she's seen like Sugar Hiccup, and it's sounding satisfying. Right? Like the most satisfying phrase or words is like cellar door. Like what if she just said, oh, cellar door, let's make a song. Cellar door or whatever. Like that's what she did. Sugar Hiccup. Like it just sounds really cool the way that she put that phrase in there. And she makes the word Sugar Hiccup sound so catchy. Like it's ringing and echoing in my head and it just goes over and over. I love how clear and forward she's singing in here. As, once again, it builds and builds in mood. This time with a lot of guitar from Robin, but also there was a moment near the ending where it almost sounded like this maybe synth choir was kind of brought in, like a keyboard setting, and it was like a choir sound. Or maybe that's just me hearing so much of the reverb and production on the guitars that they're going for, and it just gives me that kind of similar like vibe. But I could swear that it did sound like something of that nature. And then speaking of Robin on the guitar, he's handling all the other instruments, So Elizabeth, she's singing, he's taking care of everything else. And I really like how, I want to say about halfway through, after she gave one of her strong belters of a notes, not an Expanse joke, but kind of is. After she put out that belter, there was another kind of new undercurrent of a guitar riff that came in and kind of swooped in and kind of took that momentum from that note and just kind of ran with it, which I thought was a really cool way of bringing in a new element while, in a sense, attaching it and connecting it to the previous. No lyrics for this one, but we could definitely understand the title of the song, Sugar Hiccup. So let's move on to the next one, which is In Our Angelhood. Let's go. Oh. Okay. Definitely picked up speed on this one, huh? Love how the basses give you space to move here. I like how rapidly she sings that part. I like how In Our Angelhood keeps the heat and the fire from their previous tracks, that dark fire, and just turns that flame up a little bit more, adds some speed to it, and there you go. This one starts off with a bang. I mean, it gets right into it. This is just a horse out the gate, and there's a candied apple at the end of that race, and it is racing towards it. I love once again, the way that Frasier is singing the title of the song, In Our Angelhood, In Our Angelhood, In Our Angelhood. It almost has a little bit of a punky kind of Susie and the Banshees kind of like feel to it just because of the nature of it. And listening to this song, I can definitely understand that post-punk label kind of being applied as one of the minor tags for this album, because I definitely hear it here. Once again, the guitars and the bass just like rip here. The drums, so let's talk about the drums, because I haven't mentioned it yet. So there's no drummer that's credited on this album. It's just Guthrie with the drum machine. And usually a drum machine is a little bit lifeless. You're just kind of programming the drums and setting it up and letting it rip. And while, of course, that's the case here and what they're doing, I actually feel like it works. It works here. It doesn't sound so mechanical or robotic. It doesn't sound soulless. As Bjork said, it's not about the machine. It's about the human behind the machine and what you put into it. And I actually think it works really well. Like listening to the drum machine throughout this album so far isn't making me wish that there was a real drummer there. Like I'm sure obviously a real drummer would bring a different dimension to the music, but I actually am quite satisfied listening to the drum machine. I think they programmed it really well in the sense of they still add fills in there. They add, of course, the crashes at the right points. They add a little bit of nuance into it. It's not just a straight boring 4/4 beat, bass snare crash. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. So I actually really like how they've programmed it and came into the drums. Because like I said, I'm not, at least at this point, missing a drummer. You know, I would I don't know. All right, actually, this I have a question. I have a question. Because my first question was going to be, whenever they did a live tour, did they have a live drummer playing, or were they playing with the drum machine as well at that time? I would imagine probably live they brought a touring drummer. But that leads me into my second question for your Cocteau Twin fans that you know more than, of course, I do. When Elizabeth was singing live, besides the obvious parts of the song where she would sing, you know, the title of the song, which, you know, in my angel hood, in our angel hood. Like, besides that, the other parts that are a little bit more indiscernible, would she sing every night the same indiscernible lines and lyrics? Or did it kind of change, maybe not every night, but, you know, maybe it had a little bit more of a fluid movement to her? I'm just really curious. Like, did she stick to whatever she came up with, or was she kind of improvising along with the sound every tour? I don't know. I was just wondering. Like, if you listen to a performance of, you know, When Mama Was Moth, I guess 10 years ago compared to 30 years ago, would she still be singing the same lines in her way? I don't know. Just curious. All right, let's move on to the next track, which is going to be Glass Candle Grenades. They got almost a little bit of alliteration in that one. I like that deep kick in there. This one has kind of like a warped sound. This one has a really interesting melody, like the scale. That is huge. Big drum. So Glass Candle Grenades technically ends side A of this album so far. And I don't know how the general fans and populace feels, but this is so far the most intense song. Even the actual melody and the scale of notes, which you guys that are smarter with that kind of thing, let me know what scale I guess this track is in, because it's in like this very sinister, kind of alarming and distressing sound that the way that this song is playing. It's this constantly elevating distress that the music is putting us into, or at least me, when I'm listening to it, that riff, the da da ba da 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 da, like it's almost panic inducing. And while they still have their respective atmosphere, I feel like a lot of it is kind of stripped away here, and it actually just feels very intense. And I think that that is so cool how they're changing moods. They're creating like a true narrative throughout this album. Maybe not lyrically or story wise, but the story is definitely in the feeling of the music and in how it captures that. Um, Guthrie, when he's playing those big hits, first of all, the drum machine once again, like see how it matches. Like it's not like they needed a live drummer. Those kick drums, those bass drums are so big in here. At first, they just feel like this atmospheric kind of boom in the midst, right? But then as the singing comes in and as the guitars come in and everything, it feels like a heartbeat, like it feels like palpitations in the music, which I think is, once again, really cool how they've created this atmosphere. And by the way, this album is actually working kind of with the Halloween theme. It's like an ambient kind of scary, but like it still has tension, and this track nonetheless. Um, there was once again near the back half of this track. I don't know what Guthrie brings in, but it almost sounds once again like some sort of keyboard instrument. But I'm not sold on that because it could definitely just be him playing with the guitar and doing something with that creating and emulating this new sound. But there was just kind of this, I don't even know how to describe it. Electric keyboard kind of sound that kind of sounded spooky. I don't actually don't know how to describe it. And I also like how in the part where Elizabeth is singing da da ba da 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 da, that part, you can hear Robin playing the guitar, and he kind of very heavily strums the guitar. I can't tell if it's an acoustic or maybe acoustic with a lot of effects on it. Whatever. You hear him strum it, and it hits. It's like striking a heart chord, striking a chord. Anyways, heartstrings, pulling your heartstrings. I was trying to figure out what the phrase was. And on this one, I can bring you guys up here really quick because Glass Candle Grenades does have at least the lines, glass candle grenades are popping, still will not keel over. And that's the part where when she like rapidly sings it off. Still will not keel over, still will not keel over. There you go. So, all right, let's move on into the next track, which is the second side of the album. Hope that you guys have enjoyed listening to it so far with me. But so far is not so done. So let's keep on going with the next track, which is In the Gold Dust Rush. And even looking at the titles, don't they have this kind of flow to them? In the Gold Dust Rush. My 12th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade teacher, Miss Key, she was the one that like introduced me into poetry and literature. Like that was my favorite year. That's when I like really got into like meter and stuff. And like even reading that, the stress and the unstress. In the Gold Dust Rush. Like you, I see you. Thank you, Miss Key. Let's go. I like that change, that downshift down of the notes. I like how it lightens up at the end. There you go. on the sides. I like the drum part. That little echoey kick right there. You know what I've kind of noticed as I've been listening to this is that almost at, I don't want to say like at every single point during every single song, but at a lot of points there's at least 3 layers of guitar that I'm clearly hearing. Like clearly in this track you hear the acoustic strumming. At one point in the midway there's this really interesting sound effect that Guthrie's getting with his guitar, I'm assuming, in which it sounds like this. This is the best way I can describe it. Imagine a train in the subway coming to a screeching halt and you hear the sounds of the wheels screeching. If you were able to take that sound, stretch it out, like put it into like a Paul stretch kind of modifier, add a little bit more like melody to it, it kind of sounds like that. Like it's this very ambient and yet kind of, it reminds me of a subway and like hearing a train stop. I just think that that's a really cool way that he creates that, because he almost uses that effect to an interesting panning point of view, because he puts it on the right and the left, and then they kind of lean and rise back and forth. They kind of ebb and flow on the right and left. And they don't do it sharply. It's not like, you know, this. It's just kind of like a calm surrounding atmosphere with that. Like, there's a lot of interesting production value in this album, and I'm just finding it here on this song. Obviously, Frasier sounds great. You hear a little bit of the In the Gold Dust Rush as she sings it. But I was interested in that guitar sound that Robin was doing there, because it just sounded really cool. And then I began to notice just how much guitar is happening in here, from the fast drummings to, like I said, that sound. And then there's some Cure-like distorted guitar coming through. So there's just a lot of sound here. I would imagine live, if they're performing any of these songs live, he probably has pedal boards upon pedal boards upon pedal boards, and maybe there's one pedal board as well with just how many effects they're going after, which I think is kind of cool. Let's move on to the next track here, which is going to be The Tinderbox of a Heart. Let me pull it up, and here we go. I like new sounds. That's haunting. voice is layering too. That big synth is rising. Notes and the harmonies are so weird. This harmony. That crash. You got the hi-hat in the back. There's so much depth. So besides Sugar Hiccup, this is my favorite track on the album, and I don't even know where to begin because I know that no matter what I say, I'm not going to be able to cover everything that I heard in here. First of all, I think that this is the most densely layered track on the album so far. It's my first time listening to it, and every second I was just catching a new layer in the song and in what was going on. Culminating with everything that we've said before. I mean, with the layers of guitar, and now really with the layers of Elizabeth singing in here. So, you know, she's singing her main lines, and then at one point you begin to hear her kind of whisper a little bit over here on the right, just a little. Like, she just whispers, and I'm pretty sure she whispered the title of the song. I'm pretty sure she just whispered the Tinderbox of a Heart. But, like, I was kind of caught off guard. I was like, oh, hello, Miss Fraser. Like, she just kind of, like, whispered there, and I think she only did that a couple times. And then there was this other effect, the way she was singing, that kind of came in, like, right after. So she was beginning to layer her vocals. Like, it was just really interesting. She began to harmonize with herself, and I mentioned it during the part I was trying to catch, but at the ending of one of the lines where she said, I can't sing, but, like, da, 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 da. That last note, when she harmonizes with herself, it kind of sounds off, but at the same time, it doesn't sound off. That's just the magic and talent of Elizabeth. And I think that specific harmony, that chord that she hits with herself, is so beautifully unsettling. It's so in the uncanny valley, and yet, like, that to me is the siren chord. That's that one that calls to you. You know there's something about it, but man, do you find it ever alluring. That is really, really sensational. And once again, Robin, I think, brings just so many layers of guitar in here. You once again hear that big sound that kind of sounds like a symphonic kind of string sound rise up at certain moments. The drums, I mean, this is, as of right now, my second favorite track along with Sugar. I think that this is so good. Very, very dense. Like, this is layer cake dense. I don't know what kind of cake, but it's got layers to it. And then once again, officially, the lines that are in here are, the tinderbox of a heart, left a shell is all. Which I guess you could kind of say, like, the tinderbox of a heart. A tinderbox is used to start a fire, so whatever the tinderbox of a heart is, left a shell is all. After it's all burned away, all you're left with is a shell. Hey, I was finally able to dive into the lyrics a little bit. Let's go ahead and get into the next track, which is not one foiled, not two foiled, it's multi-foiled. Here we go. Super quick. It's the first time I've done this, okay? I also forgot to mention that even the drums in the previous track are so like layered, because there was a moment near the end where I mentioned it, but you could hear the hi-hats actually playing in this slightly, like, maybe it was either slightly delayed or slightly ahead, but they were just playing in this kind of interesting way behind the main drums. And then the crash cymbal coming in, it was always playing kind of mid, but there's a moment where the volume is raised on it and it kind of comes cold and clashing into our faces, and then it goes right back down. Like, there's just a lot of play in Tinderbox. Okay, now we'll do multifold. I forgot that point and I want to mention it. Huh. Heard that dropping? It's that bass. Different mood entirely. I gotta tell you, I really admire how the Cocteau twins, they take like a genre of music and they put it in their own way. They take the nuances of it all, the roots of it all, but they grow their own blossoms out of it. If you ask me, I think Multifold is the most rock and roll track on here. However, it's rock and roll in their way. Like, think about, okay, the main drum beat, right? Okay, so it's everything. Take everything and slow it down, as you just heard. Slow it down, drip it down, give it some vibe, right? Like, it's a rock and roll song. Even the way Elizabeth sings, especially in the interim where it's just drum beat and her, she's singing in a way that if you were to give it some distorted guitar, put some real drums in there, give it a little bit of a kick, and like you have a rock and roll song. The way that she does that. And then it crashes right back into the music. There's a little bit of a blues influence in here. Maybe not necessarily in the notes or the way that it's sung like directly, but in themes like the piano. Not playing blues, but it's playing Cocteau Twins' version of blues. And I think that that sounds really cool. The way it's being played is in a way that we haven't heard before on this album. So even though it's a common way to play, with just the jazzy, kind of soulful piano playing, bluesy, like it's new and shocking. It's shocking. At this point in the album. Like I said, I love the way that the music drops out and just gives Elizabeth some room with the drums. And she goes into it. She gives it, and then the music comes in, like, you know, it has that kind of energy. Maybe not blues directly, but like a jazzy kind of sound. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands, but does that make sense? Like, did you hear it in there? Like, it sounds like they're doing their own version of maybe not rock and roll, but like a rock, blues, jazz kind of sound. And I think that sounds so cool the way they did that. That floats. Let's move. And you could hear her say multifoiled. And I also think I heard her say multicolored right before that. But I don't have any official lyrics for that. So just saying what I'm saying. Next track, My Love Paramore. Let's go. That's grimy. I like that bass line. The song has swing, and I like how she's not rapping, but like it has a flow. I sincerely apologize. I have never had this happen before, like in the past however long I've been doing this channel, but apparently I ran out of disk space and it stopped recording. So I'm gonna back up the song just like 30 seconds or so. I'll edit and splice this all together, but My Love Paramore, I'm sorry about that. I was grooving into that. Let's get back to it though. that was a hard song. I feel like that was so heavy with just the heavy bass that like it is just deep. It has that deep reverb. And then I mentioned it, but I know that Elizabeth isn't rapping per se, but she does have this very specific rhythmic flow when she hops on that groove, and the way that she's singing, it just flows like this really magical river, and I really enjoyed that. The heaviness of the groove, once again, the depth of guitar that's laced in there, but it's really, to me, it is that bass that's keeping things going and just moving along alongside with Frasier, which we do have once again a couple lines in here to look at, not much, but a couple. Fig up, my love, ooze out and away, one how. So like a fig that's gone bad, like you oozing away and your love is oozing away kind of thing. Like something away, like get out of here, you're bad, you're used up, don't need you anymore, you're spoiled, you're rotten fruit. Something like that. And sorry about the disk space thing. I've never had that happen before, but I record to a separate hard drive and I always empty it out. And I guess I forgot to empty it out from the last time. So anyways, with that being said, let's move on into the final track, which is Musette and Drums. I have never heard of that word, Musette. Let's see what that means. Let's give that a Google, huh? Let me bring you guys over here real quick. Musette. Musette cycling, a small bag given to riders in a feed zone during a cycle race. Okay. It's also, I guess, an oboe, a piccolo oboe, a type of small oboe which evolved from the chanter or bag pipes. Okay. A bal musette is a style of French instrumental music and dance that first became popular in Paris in the 1880s. Or, oh yeah, there you go. The musette, a bagpipe popular in the Baroque era of France. So like if I go to images, will it show me that? Oh, look at that. Okay. So maybe I'm assuming this song is going to make use of the musette. All right, well, let's go ahead and give it a listen. We'll talk about it after. Musette and Drums. That kicked off. That is heavy. She's saying love is the end. Tragedy, love is the end. one last crash. Kind of interesting sound. It's kind of scratchy. That is great. And a drum switch up? Of course, for the ending here. Well, I did not hear any bagpipes or musettes, but I did for sure hear them drums. Once again, this is the type of track that makes me confused as to why I'm not missing a drummer. I'm not like, man, the drum machine is kind of soulless, like it needs a drummer. No, they put the work into it. That is really fantastic. And the drum switch up breakdown at the very ending, chef's kiss. That's just wonderful. Ba 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 ba. Gives you that Terminator. Da dun dun da dun da dun dun da dun. Like it gives you that same kind of emotional resonance. That's just wonderful. And the way that the song was continuously building up, building up, building up to that point, it led us there and it didn't let us down. That was awesome. That was a great sensational piece of closure for the album. It's very heavy, definitely leans towards that more gothic rock flavor that we've gotten throughout this album, but still, once again, retaining a lot of atmosphere with it. I mean, what else is there to say? I think that that's just a great way to round this up, and I thought that ending was sensational. The way the guitar changes from Robin is also really nice. That sound that comes through, I guess there is one more thing to say. That sound that comes through from his guitar, that, and then he mentioned, and he kind of leads it into like this little melodic solo-ish kind of line, and then that's what leads into that eventual breakdown on the drums. That was such a cool moment. That was just really good. If I was choosing a third favorite track, which I'm not, I muted my mic, then this would be my third favorite track on the album. Just Sugar Hiccup, Tinderbox of a Heart, and then Musette and Drums. These are my top songs on the album. I think that was absolutely sensational. This was a good album, and once again, when we listened to it, I was initially kind of like, okay, well, I'm curious to hear, what I know of Cocteau Twins. What's the previous, like their previous version? And I think that this was really cool to listen to. Looking at some of the information for this album, I have a window out here, and there's a fence that like is right out here that I see. And every once in a while I see a movement happening outside, and there were just some lizards on the fence.
Oh my. Oh my.
Anyways, let's see. Looking at some of the information for this particular album, it says Ned Raggett of The Guardian wrote that Fraser's singing was more direct in the mix than it had been on the band's first album, and although her lyrics were still often understandable, she began to shift away from conventional vocabulary towards enigmatic emotional sound, which we definitely heard here. I just want to know more about the writing of this one there. Oh, you can see Susie in the band. She's here. Tinderbox of the Heart conveys a sense of menace and danger, while the closing track, Musette and Drums, features sweeping guitars and chimes. Yes, I thought that was kind of interesting as well. Like, there's just a lot of interesting stuff here. I was trying to see if there was anything on this album that like hit the radios. There you go, charts. UK albums 51. Okay, I was just curious if there are any songs on here that actually hit the charts and hit a single or anything like that. But as far as I can tell, no. But as far as I can also tell, a lot of people seem to enjoy the album as well. So, there you go. And put me among one of them. So, those are my favorite 3 tracks on the album, but let me know what your favorite tracks are on the album. Let me know what you think of this album in comparison to the rest of their work, because like I said, this side of them was very surprising to me, but nonetheless very impressive. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Let me bring you guys back. Before you leave, you can of course subscribe and support the channel over on Patreon if you want. So it's $2 a month. You don't have to, but it helps me in what I do. Otherwise, do what I said in the beginning and press the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, or if you want to see more. Thank you as always for being here. Thank you for spending some time with me. Sorry about the mistakes and the editing I had to do to get it all together, but hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. And please enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great one, guys. I'll see you all later. Bye.